And following that, we had several other guests: Bryant Gomez from New Mexico Tech, Chris Luna from UNM, and then more recently our bridge students from the ENMU Upward Bound program. So,
are you part elephant?
Am I part elephant?
Because your memory is superb.
Oh, they do say elephants never forget. So,
I think you are.
I think I am part elephant. But Rod, we have such a great show this evening. We are privileged to hear from a representative from the Council of Opportunity in Education, Miss Kimberly Jones, who will join us in about 15 minutes to discuss COE and the status of TRiO programs in terms of government relations.
This is exciting.
So we are very excited to have Kim join us tonight. You'll hear a person representing a organization that speaks for TRiO programs. So we are elated, to say the least. So Rod, we just passed the season of giving thanks, and now we're in the season of giving.
Yes.
So your thoughts?
Well, actually, last Sunday is when we kind of entered into this
True.
whole Decemberness, holiday-ish, Christmas, all that kind of jazz. And so I'm excited because it is a changing of seasons.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Again, who would have thought that 2013 would have flew by as quick as it did?
As quick as it did,
We're
nobody.
like the end of 2013.
Yeah.
Like about to approach on 2014.
Yeah. So with that, everybody, we are going to go on a music. We're going to go to some music, and now initially, I'm going to take a minute to say, Rod, I apologize. I found the YouTube video that I'm going to play for Lifehouse, so we're gonna just swap a little bit.
Sure.
So this is Lifehouse with "Happy Christmas." It took me a while to find this song, so I hope you all enjoy it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you were just listening to the Celtic Carol by Lindsey Sterling. Before then, you were listening to Danny Boy Christmas song off of the Christmas on Death Row. I think Death Row is right up in your alley. That's California.
That is
there.
California territory right there, Rod.
And before then, as we always start the show off with a little Lifehouse, you were listening to Happy Christmas from Lifehouse.
Thank you, DJ Brother Rod. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. You are listening to Let's Talk TRiO on Houndwaves Student Radio. We have our special guest joining us this evening. I'd like to introduce to you Miss Kimberly Jones from the Council of Opportunity in Education. Kimberly, you there?
Yes, I am.
Excellent.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. And how are you feeling now that the holidays are approaching and all of that?
Well, I feel good, but it's always, it's touch and go because our schedule is always contingent upon what Congress decides to do. So I may be eating my Christmas dinner in front of my computer over at COE. So we'll see.
Go ahead.
So we were trying to banter back and forth on who wanted to ask the question. Kim, do you have a favorite Christmas memory that you'd like to share?
Oh, wow. I think are we on air?
Yes, we are on air.
Know each other. Oh, we're on the air. Oh, so this will go off into cyberspace and into the world.
This is be mindful with the Christmas memory.
So I have to pick carefully then. Okay. So I'm glad I asked. No, when I was 8 years old, that was the best Christmas ever because I was still young enough. I believed in Santa, and that year I got like a Cabbage Patch Kid. This was 1986. Wow. So I got a Cabbage Patch. I got a bike. I got a little Casio keyboard. So that was like an awesome Christmas.
Nice.
Awesome. And now with the holidays approaching, are things getting hectic with you? Do you think you got the holiday stuff kind of wrapped up, or are you ready for Christmas?
Almost. I've got half of my shopping done, and even as far as work stuff goes, this week I was doing a lot of meetings on Capitol Hill, visiting a lot of people. It looks like the budget committees, or the conference committee at least, is wrapping up its work, or the leadership of the budget conference. So, just paying some visits to our friends in the appropriations offices, and we're getting close to getting the final answer. And so it's like being a litigator. You present your case, and then the jury goes back to deliberate. And so just really kind of we're getting close to the final answer as far as what Congress is going to do about FY 2014. So we're not at the finish line yet, but it looks like we're getting close.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, straight off the bat, because we are talking to you as far as, a lot of the audience that tuned in tonight probably doesn't know what the Council of Opportunity and Education is. Can you give us a summary or a nice lengthy summary of what you all are and what you do?
Sure. So the council, or COE, we are, first and foremost, we are a nonprofit advocacy organization committed to the advancement of educational opportunity for low-income first-generation students, and first-generation meaning first generation to college. Although certainly in the past we have taken a stance on things like the DREAM Act, thinking of immigrant student populations.
Interesting.
But generally, our focus is on low-income Americans, so that's Americans of every color, because it's not poverty is not restricted to people of just one skin color, and people who would be the first in their families to go to college.
Okay.
Absolutely. Kim, how long has COE been in existence?
We are 33 years old. COE was officially incorporated in 1981 in the District of Columbia.
All right. Oh, and I guess here's my follow-up question is, who saw a need for COE? What was that need kind of built off from? What did COE see that they said we need to exist as an organization?
Well, COE actually was the third step in the national TRiO movement, because you had TRiO directors who were already organizing themselves on a state and on a regional level, and they had gotten together, they would meet, and they decided that they needed to organize themselves to advocate nationally to make themselves stronger. And so they had already developed some regional associations and some state associations. So in 1981, they cobbled together their resources to send a representative out to a national office and to establish themselves in Washington, D.C.
So before COE was and I'll use the word born, before COE was born, how are directors able to manage, or even just representing themselves? How are they managing by? If you can tell us a little bit of the history before COE.
So this is all, again, I wasn't there, so this is all secondhand information. But it's my understanding that the way it worked, and if I don't know if you or any of the listeners, you know how COE is currently organized. We have a board of directors that represent 10 regional associations, and originally, those 10 regional associations actually represented the 10 regions that the Department of Ed had set up. So that's how the Department of Ed organized TRiO. So there would be regional meetings of all the TRiO projects in that particular region. So, for instance, what is today called Aspire was called, that was Region 8. And so all the folks out in, like, Montana and my geography is terrible. So all the surrounding states around Montana, all that area, that's where they would always meet, quarterly or annually. And so they would just start to talk to each other. And there began to be a sense of they didn't want to just have some bureaucrat from Washington, flying in, or in some cases, I guess, the Southwest would be the person from Denver. In Montana, I don't be the person from, Bozeman or Butte. Just some person who didn't really know what was going on, just kind of flying in, giving them the marching orders, and then flying back out. And so when they would get together at these regional meetings, they started to just talk to each other about their concerns and the same problems. They found, I'm having this problem out in Colorado. I'm having this problem too out in New Mexico. And so that's really how it started. People just started talking to each other and got organized that way.
Oh, right on.
Sorry, Kim, I have just another.
And you got to remember too. This is but right on is exactly the right phrase, because this is, the 1960s and 70s. And so the whole country was getting organized, and a lot of campuses chose to apply for and bring TRiO or TRiO-like programs to their colleges because the nation was changing. Cities were burning, and they wanted to find a way to diversify their campuses, not just racially, but also in terms of economically. And so there was a sense at that time of, we need to organize, we need to do something.
Well, Kim, I'd like to add just a few things before we go on to our next question. I did have the opportunity to attend the Policy and Seminar a few years back, and by the way, it was a fantastic workshop /
orientation on how to go about being political from I guess just a kind of the normal person standpoint. And so can you kind of share with the audience when was that always a part of the COE movement to provide those type of workshops, or did that just kind of develop over the years? Can you kind of speak to that really quick?
Sure. Yeah, the policy seminar, for those who don't know, that is our annual, what's called in D.C. Shorthand, the annual fly-in day, where you have folks from all over the country come into Washington, D.C. to go on Capitol Hill to meet with their congressmen and senators to advocate, to represent their issue, and just talk about the programs, and usually to ask for money, or in some cases ask for legislation changes and things like that. Mm-hmm. And actually, the policy seminar is the oldest activity of the council. I may not be 100% correct on this, but I believe that initially, after COE was first organized, the very first thing that happened, like after they established the charter, and then the next day, the 12 or so people who were involved in that went to the Hill.
Nice.
And so that's sort of the cornerstone of what COE has been about, and advocacy has always been the primary activity. We do other things, but advocacy has really been the heart and soul of what COE is all about.
Okay. With advocacy being one of the kind of the primary duties, how does COE function within those parameters? What does it do exactly to speak to the politicians and all that?
That's my job.
Okay.
And so I spend a lot of time on Capitol Hill. And even off Capitol Hill, it's just the beauty of my job is it's policy, and so I talk about advocacy. It's public relations in the interest of public policy, and so it's going to events, getting the name of the issue out there, talking to people who are interested in it, making sure they understand what it is, answering questions, sometimes responding to skeptics. And just constantly promoting it, and just so I'm like a hype woman for TRiO. Mm-hmm. I like to call myself the Olivia Pope of TRiO. There's a situation, I make sure it gets handled. So that's really my job.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, Kim, how does it work alongside with TRiO programs? How does the advocacy and the lobbying and all that you all do? How does that work with TRiO and TRiO programs?
Well, you all are the subject matter experts, and so whenever I go on the Hill, I always tell the members of Congress and the staff that I talk to, I tell them I'm not here because of what I know. I'm here representing all these folks back home in different states and cities and townships and hamlets, because I get my information from you all. Mm-hmm. I stay on the phone talking to TRiO directors, talking to TRiO specialists, talking to students and alumni. And that's really, it's what keeps me informed, so I know what I'm talking about, but also, B, it keeps me motivated. Yeah. I have friends who lobby for all sorts of different causes, who are corporate lobbyists, who make a heck of a lot more money, but I couldn't do that kind of work just because of the fact that I just don't have that passion for it. Mm-hmm. But knowing the work we're doing and the lives we're changing, it's a privilege to do this work. And as Dr. Mitchum, our founding president, has always said, once policy seminar ends and everybody goes home, no one else besides COE is talking about these issues. Mm-hmm. There has been a sea change. You probably noticed in the news a few weeks back, the First Lady, Michelle Obama, has adopted this as a cause of hers as far as discussing the issue of low-income students being the first in their families to go to college, as she was a low-income first-generation student. So that's really opened up the conversation quite a bit, and we're very excited about that. But generally speaking, that population does not have a voice in public policy, because there's so many issues, and unfortunately there's so much money tied up in the policy conversations, so that issues pertaining to impoverished people do not get the attention they deserve. And that's not just in the area of education, but even in terms of housing, in terms of food policy, transportation, and so on. So we're part of a number of coalitions working with other advocates for groups that represent underprivileged folks. And it's interesting to see how we are marginalized when you compare the access to, again, some of my colleagues who represent corporate interests the access that they have. And again, they're not bad people, but just their resources allow them different levels of access to the decision makers.
Okay.
Well, again, I'd like to kind of go back or digress for a bit and talk about the COE or the Policy and Seminar Experience and say that you all did such a fantastic job about preparing us to properly advocate. I mean, anywhere from the talking points to, even the, what I like to call the drills that you all set us through in terms of what it would be like to have the experience to sit before a representative and how you have to really, really be on point and really kind of get the meat and the bulk of the importance of what you have to share, how you really have to do that in a very wise way and discerning way. And I think you all have done a fantastic job. I mean, you, Heather, and Helica, and I mean, all of you guys, and I know there's so many more that help out in what you all do, but I know it's a bit early for us to give kudos. I know we'll do this at the end of the show, but I definitely want to just appreciate you all for being so consistent and being concise and offering so many powerful orientations on how to teach us how to go about doing what we do and doing it in a way that is politically savvy.
Great. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much so, because we're already starting to get our ducks in a row for next year and then thinking about that. So I appreciate that very much.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. One question before we go on break, Kimberly. With the institutions that are applying for TRiO programs, typically they get directions from the U.S. Department of Ed, kind of a general outline of how they should run the program. How does COE give support to the host institutions?
Well, COE, we recognize that you are in an incredibly competitive environment when it comes to applying for grants and then even operating the grants because the dollars that are available are just shrinking. And so we do a number of things that we're actually, I believe, just last week, if folks have not seen it already, I would strongly encourage you to visit our website, www.coenet.us. We have a number of webinars coming up on really practical things related to the operations of your program. We also have some proposal writing workshops that are on the schedule now coming up for the next grant competition, which will be for student support services.
Yeah.
But we are working very hard to provide as much professional development as possible because we do recognize that when you're asked to do more with less every single year, and a dollar does not buy today what it bought last year, that it's an increasingly difficult environment. And so
Absolutely.
we are paying more attention to that on a two-pronged front. On the one hand, it's my job to go get you more money.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we're also out of the professional development shop working to provide high-quality programming to help you work in the confines of what exists today.
Okay. Fantastic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go on a quick music break. We'll hear more from Kimberly Jones from the Council of Opportunity and Education. Ms. Jones, can you give us a call right back in about 10 minutes?
Oh, sure.
Okay. I'm going to push off on this button, and it's going to sound like I hung up on you, so please don't think it as we're just hanging up on you. So.
Nope, I'm offended already.
Okay.
DJ JMR is already planning to send roses, so don't worry about it.
Planning to send roses your way. And a thank you card. All right, we'll hear more from Kimberly Jones here in just a minute, everyone. Just hang tight. We are going to play some more Christmas music. Rod, what do we have next?
Actually, this is not a Christmas song. This is a song that just really inspires. This is one of NDRE's new song called Just Do You.
Fantastic.
All right, you were just listening to Robert Glasper, The Consequences of Jealousy, featuring Michelle, and I won't even try to pronounce the last name. But anyway, that's on his album Black Radio Recovered, the remix EP. Before then, you were listening to Elmo and Patsy Trigg, We Need a Little Christmas. Or was that No, I think that was...
That was Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer.
Yeah.
And I got to stop you there because I have to dedicate that song to my friend Travis Carlgard, who requested that song to be played just out of random. He wanted me to play that song for him. So Travis, there you go.
Travis, there you go. I don't think I've ever heard a song like that. So it kept us laughing. Before then, we were listening to India Ari, Just Do You, which I think is a fantastic song. It's from her latest album, Song Versation. So I definitely endorse this CD and encourage you all to pick that up.
All right. Thank you very much, DJ Brother Rod. We're coming back with Miss Kimberly Jones, who is on the line with us.
Kimberly, you still there?
I'm here.
Oh, there she is. We were talking earlier about the role of COE and what it plays with TRiO, and how it really just helps out TRiO programs and its institutions. Can you tell us a little bit about current legislation that is either helping or hurting TRiO?
Sure. Well, the main thing that we're focused on, as always, is appropriations, and so that has been hurting us for a couple of years now, just because virtually every program in the federal government that funds anything that's not defense has been taking massive cuts. Because of everything that happened earlier this fall with the government shutdown, and almost, the whole economy collapsing when we almost maxed out our credit card in October, Congress is finally waking up, and it looks like they're trying to put us back not only on the path to some sort of stability, but also to what's called, quote-unquote, regular order, where Congress actually does its job, where they write legislation, where they conference bills, and they pass them by a majority of the chamber. Because they've really gotten away from that process. I've only been doing this work about 7 years, and in that time, I've never seen them, well, not never, I'm trying to think. I don't know, I don't think I've seen them actually go through the process through the normal means. I think every single time it's been maybe one chamber, like the Senate might, they introduce a bill in the subcommittee, then it goes to the full committee, and then the whole chamber might pass it, and then the House might start. I take that back. I saw them, not in appropriations, but I did see them get to it in other bills, but certainly not in appropriations. So there's that. So that's an ongoing fight, because every single year you have to appropriate. Even if the decision is to just keep the funding what it was last year, you have to at least go through the motions of making a decision about funding every single year. The other thing that's on the... Oh, did you have a question about that?
Go ahead and answer this, and I'll wait till you finish.
Sure. The other thing that's on the horizon is the Higher Education Act, and that's the bill that governs TRiO. It's the bill that created TRiO, and it creates what composes your prior experience, your required services, and all of those types of things. That bill is going to expire at the end of this calendar year.
Really?
Now, they're not going to rewrite it before then. What they're going to do is they're going to extend it until who knows when.
Oh, okay.
But the different chambers are going through the motions already of having hearings and briefings to begin the process of rewriting it. They probably won't rewrite the entire thing for a couple of years, but it's going to be a multi-year process, and so the House already requested comments and feedback, which COE submitted, and we're in the process of working with our board and actually the entire TRiO community of soliciting feedback, because we have a little bit more time on the Senate side because they have not requested feedback yet, but we know it's coming to get feedback from the community about that. And so that's going to be another major thing on the horizon, because we are already starting to see interest in making some changes in the TRiO portion of the law. For instance, last week, Senators Patty Murray of Washington, Mary Landrieu of Louisiana, and Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin introduced a bill that focuses on making sure that homeless and foster youth have access to college support services. And part of that bill included incorporating a requirement that TRiO and Gear Up programs recruit and serve homeless and foster youth. And so, as the bill stands right now, we don't think the bill quite gets at what they're trying to achieve. And so we're going, we actually have already begun having meetings with their offices to talk to them about how we can rewrite, and then again, this is only the very first step, but to rewrite the language in a way that really gets to the heart of what they want to accomplish, which is to make sure that homeless and foster youth aren't additionally burdened and not having an access to a higher education, on top of not having access to housing services and stability in that regard. So we're trying to work with them to really build up some sort of way that the programs as they exist now can really help these students, because there's already language in the TRiO and I believe the Gear Up legislation that allows them to serve these students, but it's not a requirement at this time. And simply making it a requirement doesn't guarantee that those students are going to get the kind of services they need. And it doesn't guarantee that the other students who are not homeless and foster youth will not somehow be disadvantaged. Because in talking to some TRiO directors who have worked with homeless and foster youth, they mentioned how because the homeless foster youth students tend to require additional supports, it can dilute then the services that the other students get, because inevitably you just end up spending more time, because it takes more time, because especially if you don't have the sort of knowledge base and the expertise and the relationships to really make sure that the student has the housing they need, has the accommodations, and so on. And so that's just a small example, but we're anticipating there will be other members of Congress who are interested in looking at TRiO and making changes and things like that.
Excellent. Well, Kim,
and also, how could I possibly forget? Also, the White House. The White House is interested in doing more around low-income first generation. They have not introduced any legislation, per se, but they have talked about creating a college scorecard that would rate colleges on how well they do at things like graduating students, particularly low-income students, what kind of jobs students get, what kind of earnings they make, whether or not students pay back their loans or default. And there was also some talk of somehow tying financial aid to how well a student does, whether they, persist in their studies, how well an institution does at getting the students to and through their studies. And so that is also on the horizon as well.
Yeah.
Kim, do you ever see a time where you talk about the appropriations? So in terms of the appropriation, do you ever see a time where we won't have to do an annual, I don't know if bid is really the appropriate word, but where we may get a break at some point where we can say, hey, you know what, TRiO programs can kind of lax back and not have to be so concerned every year that we're losing funding. Does that make sense? Everybody
has to fight every single year. Everybody has to fight. Every issue you can think of. Now, some people might have an easier fight, but everybody who deals with the kind of issues we deal with, even things that might be more popular than TRiO, they have to fight every single year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does the fight?
I hate to bum you out.
No. Do you think that the fight varies between the discretionary and the mandatory funds?
Well, the mandatory funds, by virtue of it being mandatory, is an automatic funding stream. And so what ends up happening, and mandatory funding is things like, for people who might not know, it's things like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and a portion of Pell Grants. So it's automatic. Whoever qualifies for it gets it. So that just goes right out the door. And so those of us that are discretionary funded, which means the government decides every year how much we get, that's where the fight comes in. Now, what's happening right now, my cat has woken up and she hears me talking on the phone, and she thinks I'm talking to her. So she might be, you're going to hear some meowing. Sorry about that. So for discretionary funding, or mandatory funding, what happens is that's kind of part of the fight right now.
Okay.
The Republicans have been saying for a while that, hey, mandatory spending is out of control, and, the baby boomer population is coming due for Social Security, and so the costs are ballooning. And Social Security was invented at a time when the average life expectancy was 65, and now today it's 90.
Yeah.
And so the mandatory expenses are much greater than they were when the programs were created, and so that is part of the conversation that's going on now. And what, unfortunately, because it's such a large amount of money, and because it's such a sensitive issue, nobody wants to pull the rug out from under grandma.
Right.
And not just for moral reasons, but quite frankly for political reasons. Nobody's more politically active than seniors. When you go to vote on election day, who is sitting behind the booth, taking your name? And all, seniors, they have the time and a lot of instances the resources to really be politically active. They have a very effective lobby, and the AARP is an extraordinarily forceful group of advocates. And so, it does not bode well to tinker with their interests.
Yeah.
And so there's been a lot of resistance to wanting to address those mandatory programs. And so what happens, and that's why when they talk about spending, they don't talk about Social Security, and they do not talk about Medicare. They talk about Medicaid, because that goes to poor people of any age. So what's happened is that everything else is what's been squeezed, all the discretionary programs, whereas discretionary funding makes up maybe, in recent years, 16% of the budget. So, and I'm sorry, I should clarify, non-defense discretionary funding makes up about 16% of the budget.
Okay.
If you throw in defense, that would raise that figure to about, let's say, 35, 40%.
Yeah.
Do not quote me anywhere.
We won't.
Budget is in front of me. But I'm just giving you an idea.
Sure, excellent. Well, I know that we've already alluded to this next question about COE and its role in lobbying. Is there anything else you would like to highlight about what you all do in the lobbying environment? And is there anything else you'd like to touch on or highlight about what you all do that you haven't already covered?
Sure. I cannot do this work without the TRiO community. I know that we ask a lot of you. It's every other day you're getting an email from me that says, y'all are laughing too hard.
Well, no,
it says, email your senator. It says, time to act is now. But honestly and truly, that is why TRiO has survived all of these years.
Absolutely.
Yes, Kimberly, I will say that every email that we get from you or from Angelica or from anybody in COE, Rod, we take it seriously, and the first chance we get, we're there to do the community action. We're ready to get our hands dirty. Well, go ahead, Rod. Sorry.
If I can, I'd like DJ JMR to share the first time that we called.
Oh my gosh!
Please.
Okay, so Kimberly, so this is what happened. I think it was a call to action, and we were told, go ahead and call the White House. And I think I was in the mentality like, Obama does not want to hear from me. No White House representative wants to hear from me. So Rod, DJ Brother Rod was kind of pushing me to, let's do it. Let's just call and see what happens. So the first call I get, I call in, and the representative picks up, and they're like, "This is the White House. How can I help you?" And they said something to the effect of, "Can I take a message for Obama?" And I said, "Well, can you please tell Obama to make sure to keep TRiO funding?" And so to hear the words, "I will make sure President Obama receives this message," I was floored.
We were like geeked because we didn't think that. I mean, we got the several emails, and this was probably about 3 years ago. This is whenever there was that outstanding surge of context that we had from the TRiO community, and you all had sent an email around this time about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And we had, I guess, that great just
outpouring from across the country. But anyway, when we called in, we were just like two little kids, and we couldn't believe that we actually did it. And we were kind of running around the office, and
It's as if we got the direct line to Batman, and we were just geeking out. It was that hilarious.
That's awesome. But see, and that's what it is, because that is why TRiO has been able to survive. It's not because, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm good and everything, but it's not because I'm so great. It's because, A, we have a national network, and we're present in every single state, in almost every single congressional district.
Yeah.
And B, we're active, we're loud. We are obnoxious at times.
Oh, yes.
But because people know, if they don't, I mean, people know they're going to hear from the TRiO folks. They know it.
Yes.
And so that is what has allowed us to be successful, is that we keep our legislators accountable.
Yes.
And so when I do issue these calls, or when the council issues these calls to action, we're not doing it because we think you have nothing else to do. We know that you are so stressed and so busy with your students who have all sorts of crises going on, and a lot of the crises they have are not things you can solve easily. I mean, they're really things that involve hand-holding, and they're very sensitive matters.
Yeah.
So we're not trying to add to your stress. But the advocacy is a critical element, because if we don't do that work, you will not have the opportunity to help the students.
Yes.
And so I just say that to ask everyone to please continue to stay in the fight with us, to get your students involved, and your alumni especially. There are no greater examples of what TRiO can do than the alumni who are the success stories.
Absolutely, yeah. Kimberly, I would also like to just interject real quick to say that the Alumni Network does have a Facebook page on Facebook. Can you? I don't know if are you familiar with it?
Well, are you talking about the national one? Or,
Yeah, the National TRiO, the National TRiO Alumni Network.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, can you tell our audience a little bit about that if they have not already joined?
If you have it, it's very simple. We're on Facebook and also on Twitter, I believe, although our Facebook is probably the more active of the two social media sites. And it's just NTAA, for National TRiO Alumni Association. And that's a great way for folks just to connect with other TRiO alumni in your area. And especially, all the time I meet TRiO students who don't know they're TRiO students.
Yeah.
Because, they might have been in a program that did not have TRiO in the name, or their school might have called it something different.
Yes.
Or especially a lot of McNair scholars, too. I'll meet folks, and they'll ask me what I do, and then they'll say, oh, that's something I was in, and they'll tell me about their program, and I'll be like, you're a McNair scholar. And so as much as you can, educate your students. Let them know that they're part of a larger community, because we need them.
Absolutely.
We need them in this fight.
Absolutely. Well, and I'd like to also add that our students on their own time, now we encourage the students to write to their senators, and many of our students wrote to Senator Pierce, and they actually got a response back. Now, we do understand that they have staffers and whatnot that may write the letters or whatnot, but I think it did many things, not only for us as a staff, but also to the students. I think it really created a sense of they're tangible, or we can do this work, or we can call in. And so I just want to again just go back and highlight some of the great work that you all do about encouraging us as a staff, because it really does trickle down to our population, or to our students, to feel more confident to say, hey, we called the White House, or we called our state representatives. It's just that easy to do, and these are patterns that you could do throughout not only your youth, but as you become adults. And so anyway, I just want to speak to that part of the conversation as well, to say that we're trying to do a better job about educating our students, and you all give us such wealthy information to provide to our students so that they feel confident to write a letter to their state representative.
Absolutely.
And here's another piece of it. I don't have all the good ideas. We do not have all the ideas. So if there are things that we're not doing that we can do to help you, to make your life easier, to a lot of ideas come from the field. Mm-hmm. And so if you all have thought that there are things we're doing that we could do better to make advocacy easier for you, let us know. We're happy to do that. We don't want to. We're not too proud,
Awesome.
Awesome. And Kimberly, kind of going off of, I guess, that note, have you encountered any pushback from senators, representatives that are just completely against TRiO?
Only a couple, and it's usually not so much that they're against TRiO per se. It's more like they don't believe that the federal government has a role in education.
Mm-hmm.
So I can really, in all honesty, count on one hand the number of members of Congress who don't like TRiO.
Right.
And it's usually for that reason. They just don't believe that the federal government has any business, that it's a state issue.
Oh, okay. Okay.
What are some, I mean, the next question is, how have other legislators and state representatives championed for TRiO programs, and what are some ways for TRiO supporters to strengthen their political network? It's a mouthful.
Wow, great. Well, I think it's the inverse of what I just said. While there's not a lot of members of Congress who say they don't like TRiO, I can count many who like TRiO, but I can only count a few who love TRiO enough to really take decisive action and do something bold like introduce legislation, to make a statement on the floor of the House or the Senate. And so our goal is to really get more of our supporters to become champions who will not just take action, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something bold where everybody can see it, not just writing a letter or signing a letter, but even work that we'll never see. Something like having a conversation that, behind closed doors with the chairman of a committee. And so it's about building relationships. And so that's really the most important thing that we as TRiO advocates can do. So having and building and cultivating relationships with members of Congress, you do that in part through their staff, but also even with the members themselves. And so in some areas, especially some of our smaller states, and not just small geographically speaking, but in terms of population size, you can do that fairly easily. If, for instance, if you have a state that's fairly rural and there's a small population, it's probably not uncommon to know someone who is a relative of that member of Congress, who go to church with that person, to know a teacher of theirs or something like that. And those are the kinds of relationships that you cultivate. And, you don't manipulate people, you don't use people, but people are more likely to answer a phone call of someone they know. And so, you want to cultivate relationships, and you decide when it's appropriate to make an ask. And, we're here to help you use your judgment about when is it time to leverage those relationships.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. And Kimberly, I just have one question here to wrap up our interview. What research has been conducted to support TRiO programs? Because we've heard of research like the Mathematica study that said something that upper bound
will not die.
But is there any research out there that counters that and says this is what we show that TRiO has been effective?
Well, sure. Actually, first of all, one of the researchers who worked on the Mathematica study actually acted as a whistleblower to say that this was bad research.
Oh.
And the council published her findings, and that's available not on our website, but on the Pell Institute website. And the Pell Institute, and the website is pellinstitute.org, and that's the research arm of the council. And it basically demonstrates, I won't go through the whole rigmarole because it's actually sort of complicated, but essentially the study was skewed because one of the samples in the project, or in the research, carried 26% of the weight. And also that sample was a poor representative of the type of institution it was supposed to represent. So there's that.
Okay.
Also, there have been 4, including Mathematica, the Mathematica Upper Bound study, there have been 4 national studies of TRiO. All of them have said that TRiO programs are effective, including the Mathematica study. If you remove that one sample I just talked about, it completely changes the outcome. And so, again, we have on our website, on the Pell Institute website, it's pellinstitute.org, publications, and there are several publications, and one of which is called National Studies Show TRiO Programs Effective. That's a summary of all the national data of the studies conducted by the Department of Education about TRiO programs. And so that is something I take with me constantly on Capitol Hill to demonstrate there have been studies done. I know that the Mathematica study will not die, and that's the one that everybody loves to trot out when they want to justify, disparaging TRiO. But and even the Mathematica study with that one sample in there, it actually did not say that TRiO doesn't work or upward bound doesn't work. What it said was that upward bound works best for students who are most likely, what did it say? Students who are at risk of academic failure and who would go to like a 2-year college or something like that. So it's not even that it said it was a bad program. It just said it was most effective for students who were on the lower end of the academic scale.
Okay. All right. I believe Rod has... We're wrapping up this side of the conversation, but we still have more to talk with you, Kimberly, about. I think we need to go ahead and keep this rolling, so I'm going to pass it over to Rod.
Well,
sure.
Kim, what we usually try to do at the end of each show is try to give a COE update. But since we have the dear and true Kimberly on live with us, we figured that you could, if you don't mind, maybe share some of the most current updates from COE and with our audience.
Oh, wow. I think I gave a lot of them in the course of the conversation.
Okay.
One was about the webinars we have coming up, and that information is available through our website, www.coenet.us. So we just released a whole new schedule of webinars. We've also released information about our upcoming proposal writing workshop. I think that's scheduled for May of next year for student support services. Also, I talked about, again, appropriations. The budget committee is, or really not even the committee, but Paul Ryan and Patty Murray, really the only two people negotiating in the room. They are very close to closing in on a deal. And if they are able to produce a deal that gets accepted by the conference committee this week, then over the Christmas break, the appropriations committees will work on hammering out a bill. And that should give TRiO our funding level for next year. Because you've got to remember, even though FY14, the fiscal year 2014 has already begun, it funds the 14-15 program year. So it would fund all of next year. Excellent. So be on the lookout for a call to action.
All right.
Even over the holidays, similar to what we did a couple years ago, particularly for folks who live in areas represented by people on appropriations. Yeah. We've done a lot of hard work. It's just time to bring it home. Because our goal is to secure the appropriations amount given to us by the Senate. The Senate gave us enough money to put us back to where we were before the sequester, and then some. And so that's really our objective there. Yeah. And then our board of directors is meeting next week in New Orleans. And we're going to be discussing some of the most recent recommendations from the field about what the TRiO community would like to see in the higher education reauthorization bill.
All right. Excellent. Fantastic. Well, Miss Kimberly Jones, Rod does have one more question before we wrap up.
I do. Kim, I'm gonna put you on the spot just a little bit. I know that you all have not officially released and don't even have access to the official APR deadline for UB, but has there been any inkling of a conversation between the last time you guys posted this December's update, a weekly update? Do we know? Okay. I thought I'd try.
That's the last bit of information we have.
All right, right on.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you for indulging me for that short moment.
No, hey, if we had it, we would give it to you.
I know you all would. I know you would.
All right, Kimberly, thank you so much for joining us on air today, or this evening. Thank you so much for your input, for all the information you've given us. We really appreciate all the work that you and COE do on a daily basis to represent our TRiO programs.
Oh, you're so welcome. I work for the best people in the world.
Oh, you're awesome.
And I hope you're open to a future interview, hopefully in the spring semester.
Sure. As long as you let me come and talk about advocacy and call to action and all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, have a great evening, and we will talk to you soon.
Great. Thanks, guys.
No problem. Thank you. Bye-bye.
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 Well, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard from Miss Kimberly Jones from the Council of Opportunity in Education. Rod, what did you think?
I'm like, is it fair to say I just have like electricity all over my
It's fair to
body?
say that. It is. It is.
Because this is very historical. I know we shared this with Kim, but I think this is very historical for our program and for you to be
Absolutely.
able to really initiate the agenda for the semester and to have someone of Kim's caliber to come and speak to us about the issues from a national perspective and really
Absolutely.
have I don't know if the closest insight would be an accurate statement.
I would say, and just to help paint the picture,
Sure.
a pulse on the
Yes,
government.
I like that, a pulse.
A pulse right
So
there.
I think with Kim and the others that really help to support TRiO programs and COE, to have any one of them to come and to speak and to share with our audience, I think is awesome.
Absolutely.
I think is, again, I have to keep saying fantastic because I think that this is really stellar and it sends a message to our state. It sends a message to our regional constituents in SWASAP, or the Southwestern Association of Student Assistant Programs. Thank you.
Yes.
It just really sends a message about who we are and what we're trying to do, and
Absolutely.
to really keep the momentum going. I mean, we
Absolutely.
know that we didn't start, and I know that Kim talked about, I think she talked about how a lot of the COE's incipient stages began in New Orleans with Dr. Mitchum and a few other ones to really kind of rally and organize as a group. And it really has kind of snowballed from then.
Yeah.
I think it's just awesome, man, to see that energy and that momentum kind of remain within the Southwest region or within the SWASAP group, to see that we're continuing on the legacy. So I really want to just kind of applaud you for being able
thank
to
you.
organize the interview.
I appreciate it.
And
Thank you.
We're just so stoked, Kim, and COE for
Absolutely.
you all just represent on our behalf. As DJ JMR mentioned to Kim, that you all are on Capitol Hill every day, 7 days of the week, even during holidays, continuing to advocate not just for us but for our students. And I think that is just an awesome thing, because we don't have a clue of all of the various things that you all experience. I mean, I've gone up to DC a few times to do advocacy and all those kind of things on my own time, but I think that it's really awesome to know that we have individuals who do this every day, do what we did for one day, that they're doing 365 days out of the year.
yeah.
I mean, I maybe exaggerated maybe by 2 weeks, but
Still,
yes.
the justice here is they do a lot to make sure that TRiO is not only a bill that's being passed or an appropriations that's being passed, but it's always in the mind of our representatives, that every decision they make regarding budget, regarding money, regarding whatever it is they're doing with education, that TRiO should always be on the top of their minds.
Yes, sir.
So,
yes, sir.
yeah, you did a great summary on really on how important, how epic really this whole thing is. This interview was a long time in the making. When I started talking to Angelica, and she said, "Well, Kim can go on there as kind of the PR person doing outreach," and really the purpose of the interview was hopefully that the audience gained a greater understanding of not only TRiO as separate programs, but the representatives that we have like COE, who go out there and make sure that these TRiO programs continue to exist for future generations that need them.
Absolutely.
So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go on a quick music break. We'll be right back. We have 2 special announcements, so you got to stay tuned for those. 2 special announcements. Right now what we have is I'm going to play We Need a Little Christmas by The Muppets. If you've seen The Muppets Christmas Carol or The Muppets Christmas a movie, I actually just got done seeing it with my kids before I came to the radio show. A great little show. And I'm going to play the song that goes with that. So here is The Muppets, We All Need a Little Christmas.
Ladies and gentlemen, you were just listening to Donny Hathaway, the late Donny Hathaway, this Christmas. And before then, you were listening to Muppet Babies, We Need a Little Christmas.
Awesome.
DJ
Fantastic.
JMR, what's the secret?
DJ, well, Rod, as you know, I've been DJ JMR since June, when I started the radio show in June. And I've been DJ JMR for quite a while.
Quite a while.
And unbeknownst to a lot of people, just my immediate friends that are on Facebook knew that I was changing my DJ name. So I'd like to take just a couple minutes before we end the radio show that I am announcing my new radio DJ name on air and here in a couple minutes.
No way.
Yes, I am changing my DJ name.
Now, we talked about this, and I have to admit that I'm feeling a little bit on the jealous end.
On the jealous end?
Yeah, because you kind of opened this whole little, your friends get a chance to give you a name. I never got an invite to say, hey, Rod, what do you think about
Rod, you're in my
offering me-
Facebook. You're a listed friend. You just didn't see. You liked my status, by the way.
But you had already had options there. You didn't ask me what I would like for your DJ name to be. And I thought that maybe that I would have that opportunity to say DJ Tay Tay or something like that. But
True.
You know,
True.
that's okay. Go ahead and share with the audience what the little names are.
Well, DJ Brother Rod, you know, you got a chance to vote on some fixed names that I wanted because some of these names just sounded really good. I'd like to share with the audience now what DJ names were voted on and suggested, because you did have a chance to suggest, but the likes would determine whether or not I would consider it. Okay. So starting from the very, very bottom, I'm calling this the no-make list. This is the list that did not make it.
Do we need a drum roll, or do we need some ambience in the background?
If you want to put a little bit of music, that's fine.
Well, you know you're going to have to work it out.
Well, what track would you like me to play, and I can get started?
I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
You know what? I have Healed the World by Michael Jackson on there, but we'll come back to
okay.
it. Come on, just come share with the audience.
All right, so several DJ names were voted on, and again, some of them made it, some of them didn't. Here's the no-make list. DJ Rio. DJ Parker. And that's an homage to, of course, Peter Parker from Spider-Man, yes.
Okay, I got you.
And DJ Tres did not make it. That was my note. Yes, DJ Tres.
I think I kind of like Tres.
You like Tres a little bit?
Can we take a recount, a revote?
No. It's final. It's final as of today.
DJ Tres.
Now here are some of the names that were voted on. DJ Manny Tres. DJ Brofessor.
I
DJ
think I like that one too.
DJ
Professor.
DJ TRiO, and some other DJ Jamar, and DJ Jammer, and DJ Manny were voted on.
Okay, I'm curious. What is the DJ Jammer?
DJ Jammer was it was an inspiration of DJ JMR, but I've just put an A and then two M's right there. It would be DJ Jammer.
Oh, so, like you jam.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Oh.
There you go. See, you got that? You got that? I like that one. But Rod, this DJ name beat all other DJ names by 17 votes. The DJ name that is now from here on out is no longer DJ JMR. I'm saying goodbye to that name, to that call sign. I'm saying.
I mean, since we don't have any effects.
Right. Okay. So my new DJ name, I will from now on be known as DJ Obi-Juan.
Obi-Juan.
A little shout out to the Star Wars fans out there. Yes, that is my new DJ name, DJ Obi-Juan. Joining you live right now. This as of right now, that is my new DJ name.
DJ Obi-Juan?
Obi-Juan, yes.
Obi-Juan.
Taken from Obi-Wan Kenobi from Star Wars. Obi-Juan.
Obi-Juan.
So I love this DJ name even better. So I love it. I'm gonna run with it, and I'm gonna take it with me now from here on out. That is my new DJ name.
I love it. I mean, I think it's kind of synonymous with our idea of the Pegasus. It just kind of elevates.
It elevates a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of puts you on a different planet, man.
Absolutely.
I like that. I dig it.
Thank you, DJ Brother Rod. Thank you. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, I do have another special announcement to make.
What's it?
All right.
What it is?
Rod, as you know, next week is our final episode for Let's Talk TRiO. I know, it's already time is here. The finals are next week. My final is on Wednesday. After that, the Sunday will be our final show. And a lot of you are wondering who is going to be on the final show of Let's Talk TRiO. And this is the one time I will tell the audience you don't get to know until you tune in Sunday.
So they have to tune in.
Yes, we have a mystery guest joining us live. This person will be calling in, and you'll get to hear an awesome success story. I will not give anything else away. All I can tell you is This is an awesome success story. You want to stick around for this show. It's a mystery guest. We will line up some great Christmas music and a great conversation. Rod, you're curious.
Well, will this mystery guest have like a mystery photo?
No. I will put a photo on the hour we launch the show.
Okay,
there will be a photo because I do not want to reveal any little hint. I will give small hints here and there, but I'm not going to give everything away. No.
What about like a mystery audio?
A mystery audio. You know what? I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
I might swing with a mystery audio.
I mean, she can quote something from like SpongeBob.
Oh, I like that. I like that idea to have her quote something. Yeah.
Like she can say James Baxter.
James Baxter. Okay. Possibly I'm considering a possible audio clue, but nothing else. We will be posting on our Facebook page on Let's Talk TRiO. You will be hearing, or not hearing, but rather reading a lot of kind of a build-up to this mystery guest. So please be sure you're here next week. That is our final show for next week for Let's Talk TRiO. Yes, we will return in the spring, so don't get upset. Don't think that this is the end of Let's Talk TRiO. No, it's not. We will be back in the spring. And we'll be back with new episodes. But next week is our final episode. Next week's episode will set the tone for future episodes.
Yes, sir.
And that's I like to call that a comic book hook, where they it's a preview of a coming attraction. They tell you something will change in the history of this character forever, and it's permanent. This timeline will not change. Yes.
Body, like,
did you feel that?
That was like a changing wave. It hit me all over.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you very much to Kimberly Jones from Council of Opportunity and Education. Thank you very much, DJ Brother Rod.
Okay, just before you end it, because I know you have your last
words.
I just wanted to celebrate and acknowledge our students for a fantastic job yesterday going out and supporting the kids. It was a community service, and they had an opportunity to go out to the New Mexico Christian Children's Home and do a community service, helping to decorate cookies as well as reading Christmas books or holiday books with the kids. And so I want to celebrate those students who came out and volunteered their time, shared with the students, spoke with the students. We even had students singing and all that kind of great stuff. It was an awesome time, and I just want to make sure that we verbally acknowledge our students for what they did yesterday. And we definitely look forward to more moments where we can share with the younger kids and go out to the home again. And thank you to the New Mexico Christian Children's Home for giving us the opportunity to come out and share time with the kids. So I just want to get that out there.
Absolutely. Upward Bound students, you did a fantastic job representing us, representing the university, representing your families.
Yes,
and we had such a large turnout. It was just magnificent. The NMCCH students had a great time with our students. It was phenomenal all around. We will post pictures on our Upward Bound Facebook page. If you're already like that, then you're going to be able to see the pictures up there.
And I think that was probably our largest turnout.
That was our largest turnout this year, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we're wrapping this up. This is DJ Obi-Juan signing out, and...
Do I get a change name? Do I get a mystery name too?
Do you want a mystery name?
Can I be like DJ Obi-Juan Rodrigo or something like that?
You can do a Star Wars name. Yeah, we'll play with that.
Stick with Brother Rod for now.
Brother Rod for now, and then we'll vote on it.
All right, this is Brother DJ Rod signing out as well.
All right, have a great rest of your evening.